What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in Australia tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out the US mistake that made Australia's deadliest weapon. Very much sad, checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. We're just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
There are few sights in military aviation more glorious, more absurd, and more terrifying than this: the dump and burn. A 40,000-pound swing-wing middle finger literally on fire, screaming across the sky. For nearly 40 years, this was Australia's signature move. This was the F-111 Aardvark, or as the Aussies called it, with that typical down-under affection, the pig. It was loved, it was feared, and it defined an entire generation of air power for the Royal Australian Air Force.
This reminds me of its
But here's the beautiful, cynical truth. This Australian icon, this symbol of national pride, was born from one of the most politically fucked up, disastrous, and compromised military.
I was not expecting that kind of language right there. My goodness. It seems I'm going to be in for a treat. The guy just used some obscenities there, man. Damn.
Disastrous and compromised military procurement programs in American history. Today, we're not just giving a tribute to a plane. We're telling the story of how America's problem child became Australia's long-range fist of God.
What choice of words?
To understand why the F-111 was so important, you first need to understand Australia's permanent, unsolvable problem: geography. It's a continent-sized island surrounded by nothing but thousands of kilometers of ocean. They call it the tyranny of distance. Your potential enemies are far away, but so are your friends. You need to be able to reach out and touch someone aggressively from a very, very long way away.
Wow.
Now, let's talk about the F-111's origin story, the TFX program. It was a classic 1960s Pentagon disaster, orchestrated by Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. The idea? Force the US Air Force and the Navy, two services with completely different needs, to use the same goddamn plane.
Really?
The Navy needed a fleet defender. The Air Force needed a low-level nuclear bomber. The result was a compromise. A plane that was too heavy for aircraft carriers and too complex for its own good. The early models had engine stalls, structural failures. It was a political and engineering mess. So what does Australia do in the middle of all this chaos? They decide to buy it. The most complicated, controversial, and expensive strike aircraft on the planet.
Whoa.
It looked like strategic insanity. But it wasn't insanity, it was genius.
I don't know if you guys can remember, especially in my younger days, when we used to make the paper planes. It kind of looks like that from just by watching it, but definitely it's not. Just by the look of it, the whole outlook, the build, it doesn't look like a paper to me. It looks really, really tough, and I can imagine the different struggles they had building that kind of plane.
But it wasn't insanity, it was genius. Because while the F-111 was a mediocre solution to America's problems, it was the perfect solution to Australia's. The Aussies didn't give a shit about carrier operations. They
I guess the saying, one man's trash is the next man's treasure. Hey, I'm just saying.
needed one thing: range. And the F-111 had range in spades. It was a strategic bomber disguised as a tactical fighter. From bases in Australia, it could fly to Jakarta, bomb the presidential palace, and fly back without refueling. It could strike targets anywhere in the Indonesian archipelago and deep into the Pacific. And it could do it in the most terrifying way imaginable. Thanks to its revolutionary terrain-following radar, the F-111 could scream across the water at over Mach 1, just a couple hundred feet off the deck, in the dead of night, in shitty weather. You wouldn't see it. you wouldn't hear it until it was too late. Your first warning would be the sound of your world exploding. For any regional power, it was a checkmate weapon.
Man.
The F-111 gave Australia a big stick. Its mere existence was a form of psychological warfare. It was a strategic sledgehammer. Take the 1999 East Timor crisis. As Australian-led peacekeepers went in, Indonesia was making threatening noises. The RAAF quietly put its F-111 fleet on high alert, armed with guided bombs. The unspoken message to Jakarta was clear. Interfere, and we can level your command centers before you've had your morning coffee. The threat stopped. The F-111 never fired a shot in anger for Australia because it never had to. Its reputation did all the fighting. And that's where the
So I guess this was more of a bully tactic more than anything else. It just by what it can do alone would make countries, their opponents, fear them from even using it. So it was more like just a tactic of fear, more so like they will actually want to use it. You know, so that's also a good tactic. Use fear. You know you could defend yourself, but you more so want to put fear in the enemy so that you wouldn't even have to use it. Basically, you win the war before you even start. Yeah. It's a good tactic.
Its reputation did all the fighting. And that's where the pig nickname comes in. It wasn't an insult. It was a term of endearment for a plane that could fly low, get dirty, and carry a massive load of bombs. And the dump and burn? That wasn't just a party trick. It was a peacock display, a visceral demonstration of raw, unadulterated power. It was the plane saying, "Look at how much fuel I can afford to just set on fire for your entertainment. Imagine what else I can do." But nothing lasts forever. By the 2000s, the pig was old. It was a maintenance nightmare. A 1960s design kept flying.
I guess no pun intended when he said the pig was old. I mean, like, we know animals gotta get old. So it sounded so. I know it was not a pun, but or who knows, it could be. You guys tell me, but the way he said it, it made me chuckle for a moment there.
It was a maintenance nightmare. A 1960s design kept flying by sheer willpower and an astronomical budget. Keeping one F-111 in the air took over 180 hours of maintenance. It was simply too expensive, even for a country that loved it. In 2010, the last flight took place. It was the end of an era. Australia had moved on to the FA-18 Super Hornet, and later, the F-35. Good planes, but they're not the F-111. They don't have its reach, they don't have its presence, they don't have its soul. But here's the final, beautiful piece of irony. Decades after the US retired its F-111s, what is the US Air Force now desperately building? A new, long-range, penetrating strike bomber, the B-21 Raider. They're relearning the very lesson the F-111 taught, and that Australia never forgot. In the vastness of the Pacific, range isn't everything. It's the only thing.
And that's a line.
The F-111 Aardvark. It was born from a failed political compromise, it was plagued by problems, and it was a bastard to maintain. But in the right hands, for the right mission, it was untouchable. It was perfect. It's a reminder that the best weapon isn't always the newest or the shiniest. Sometimes it's the one that understood the assignment perfectly. A flawed masterpiece.
Definitely, this was, I would have to say, very intimidating for in its time. I mean, if you have an opponent and you put something like that in the airspace, showcasing what it can do, it's going to frighten mostly any opponent. But for the US, like it said, it's something that they will had surpassed already. They didn't even want it anymore. But for the Australians, it was something that they needed at the time. One man's trash is the next man's treasure. It's not something, I'm not saying it to be offensive, I'm just saying how something that someone may overlook, maybe just the right tool for someone else. And I can imagine the budget to maintain that at that time period. I mean, it's insane. 180 hours of maintenance work on average. Man, that's a lot of maintenance. So I can imagine the cost of that. And I would have loved to hear some of the figures. And he didn't give any figures in that, but I'm guessing that was not the point of this video. It was more paying tribute to it. So I guess I gotta have check other videos where he actually talks about the budget for this one. At first the name was kind of, I was like, huh? They call it like a pig, but it makes sense. It could go real down and dirty and get the job done. So pig, definitely. It's a fitting name after he went into a deeper dive doing the explanation. Informative video. Definitely I'm gonna have to do more on that subject. I haven't done a lot in terms of military power and military content, but I'm gonna have to go a little further in terms of the technological aspect of Australia in terms of warfare. I've done some videos pertaining to some of the wars that they took part in with America, but I want to find out like how far are they in terms of military power compared to other countries. So I'm going to have to do that, definitely. If you want to see that long-term archery that I do, hit me over on Dyce Reacts, where I do music reactions. This is where I'm going to be making my exits. Until next time, peace out.